There's a growing movement of people that are wanting to take better control of their health. They're wanting to step out of fear. They're not watching the news. They've deleted all the programming that they're getting from outside sources. How do we help those people? What is it that we can do in this moment?
Okay, there are two most important facts that if people own these facts, the world will change. Okay?
Great.
Okay. Fact number one is that we are not controlled by genes. We control the genes.
Dr. Mindy here.
Your body is in a war zone.
Different parts of the brain get activated depending upon how stressed you are.
When you look at it from that inflammatory.
That's interesting. I mean, that has some merit to it for sure.
And you can't control everything.
I'd say.
And what about a woman who is not pregnant, but she's aiming?
Over the last year, it would be easy to watch the news. It would be easy to listen to our friends and to think that the world is falling apart. But one of the questions that I've had for myself is it really falling apart? Or are we actually rising to a whole nother level of human existence?
That's a good answer. That's a good answer to offer the audience.
Great. Awesome. That's the answer. Huh? Is that the answer? So I keep thinking, are we actually breaking down or are we having a breakthrough?
Both. Same
Interesting.
time. Same time.
Okay.
Well, I'll give a story to cover that, because that's one of the first things to get people calmed down is to recognize that you're going through something that's very critical, important. And a matter of fact, if you didn't go through this, life is going to be worse because we're facing an extinction process that humans have created. And so either humans change or extinction looms. So you got two choices.
Okay. So explain that a little bit, because I've also heard you talk about we are in the sixth possible human extinction. And I think this is
sixth mass extinction. They occurred before 5 of them occurred before humans were here. The last mass extinction is when the dinosaurs were here, and then they disappeared. Boom. Okay.
Right. Okay.
This is the 6th recorded version through history of this extinction process. But the most important point is that previous ones were all natural events that occurred. That led to this one is solely due to human behavior upsetting the web of life.
Okay.
And it basically says, well, the way you're living is causing this problem, which leads you to, well, if you don't want to be in this problem, then you have to live in a different way starting now.
Beautiful.
That's what the story
starting
is.
Now. Great.
Starting about 10 years ago, but nobody paid attention.
Right. Okay. Right. So I do think, because I've thought about all these things over the last year, and I do think that there's a growing movement of people that are wanting to take better control of their health. They're wanting to step out of fear. They're not watching the news. They've deleted all the programming that they're getting from outside sources. How do we help those people? What is it that we can do in this moment?
Okay, there are two most important facts that if people own these facts, the world will change. Okay?
Great.
Okay, fact number one is that we are not controlled by genes. We control the genes. The old story that genes control our physical, our emotional, our behavioral traits, and then you inherit these genes, and then you're saddled with, it's running in my family, and I have the breast cancer gene, and oh my God, the breast cancer gene causes cancer. Now I'm worried like crazy because I know I have a gene and I know that people get breast cancer, and everybody's like, well, that's stress, a little bit right there.
Yes.
And then I like to offer a little simple fact. There is not one gene that causes cancer. The genes are correlated with cancer, but the gene itself does not activate itself. It doesn't turn itself on. That's a whole false belief that genes turn on and off like a light switch. Genes on, genes off. I go, no. A gene is a blueprint to make body parts. It's a plan to make cells and muscles and bone and all these things and put it in the structure called the human. Genes are blueprints. That's a fact. So why is it relevant? I said, So you go into this architect's office, and she's working on a blueprint. And you lean over her shoulder and you go, hey, is your blueprint on or off? She looks at you like, it's a blueprint. It's not on and off, it's a blueprint. Precisely. You need an architect. And it turns out consciousness is the architect. And the reason is this is the new science called epigenetics. I go,
yes.
Everyone's familiar with the old story, genetics. Genes control this and they turn on and off and blah, blah, blah. And I said, now you're a victim. Why? As far as you know, you didn't pick them. You don't like the traits, can't change them. Then we say, well, of course they turn on and off by themselves. And all of a sudden you start to realize then I'm a victim of my heredity. Whatever been passed down to me is going to project into my life. And then what we do is now we get all the drugs and the chemistry to protect myself against these genes. And I go, wait a minute, there's no gene that causes cancer. Cancer is due to a disharmony in the system. The gene is called in when there's a disharmony. And I go, why is this relevant? Well, for example, let's just talk about the breast cancer gene I mentioned. What's the point? Half the women that have this gene never get the cancer. And you have to stop and say, well, what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means. Possession of the gene doesn't cause cancer. And all of a sudden, so why is it relevant? Because you keep focusing on the cells that are supposedly the problem, and the cells are a mirror or reflection of the consciousness of that individual. Because the brain translates our visions into complementary chemistry. It's sort of like paint by numbers in reverse. The paint are the hormones, the growth factors, all these things that create this body. Yeah, but I say, first you start with a picture, the brain translates it into chemistry that complements, and then that chemistry goes in the body to do what? Manifest a physical expression of what you just had.
Are you saying then if I know I have the breast cancer gene, I create a picture in my mind of me having breast cancer, now that gets played out in my cells and can actually create the cancer itself?
And let me just add one little fact to that same story. Only about 10% of cancer has a hereditary linkage. About 90% of cancer patients don't really have that in their world. And yet they end up with it. And the idea was, well, how can I end up with this cancer? I said, it's the manifestation of the vision, the fears that you have been programmed with that occupy most of your consciousness. And those fears generate chemistry released into the body. And this is what my research 50 years ago on stem cells, which are embryonic cells, I created genetically identical stem cells in 3 culture dishes. All dishes were genetically identical. But I changed what is called the culture medium, chemistry. I make it in a lab, culture medium. And I make 3 different versions, chemistry. And in one dish, the cells form muscle, another dish, the cells form bone, and the third dish, the cells form fat cells. And you have to stop and go, wait a minute. Why did it become muscle here and fat over here? What controls that? And I go, they all have the same genes. It was the environment that was changing that. Okay. But I'll finish. There's a connection
go
here.
for it.
I go like I say, in a plastic dish, I put culture medium. Culture medium is the laboratory version of blood. Okay. So the chemistry of culture medium is supposed to match the chemistry of the blood. Okay. So I make slightly different variations of that blood, and the cells have different expression. And I go, the cells were genetically the same, so I can't say the genes made a decision. They made a decision in response to what was going on in their world, okay? So now I say, so why is this? Now let's just take it back. I go, those are cells in a plastic dish. You are a skin-covered Petri dish because underneath your skin is 50 trillion cells in a skin-covered dish with the original culture medium, blood. And I say, does it make a difference if the cell's in the skin dish or the plastic dish? I say, nope. It's still controlled by the environment. In the plastic dish, culture medium, synthetic blood. In your skin-covered dish, the actual real blood is the culture medium. And I said, the chemistry of that culture medium is what made muscle cell versus bone versus fat. I said, the chemistry then. I said, oh, so the chemistry of the blood culture medium, controls the fate of the cells. I go, yeah, it's above the genes. And that's why it's called epigenetics. Epi means above. So what's skin called? Epidermis. I go, what does that mean? Well, just underneath the layer of the skin, there's a layer called dermis. And so when giving the anatomy name, they say layer above dermis. Oh, it's simpler to say epi. That means above. Epidermis. So when I say epigenetics, what I'm saying, I say this factor is under genetic control. That's the conventional belief. That's interpreted as what? Genes control this factor. But if I say this factor is under epigenetic control, it's a revolution. I say, why? Epi means above. So what I'm saying is control epi above the gene's genetics. And all of a sudden
what's above the gene?
Consciousness. Consciousness is controlling the genes by adjusting the chemistry of the blood. Wow. So if you have a picture of love, the chemistry that comes out of a brain of love is the most wonderful chemistry. It's got dopamine for pleasure. It's got oxytocin to bond you to your love source. It's got vasopressin, makes you more attractive so your partner stays with you. And it has growth hormone. So blood from lovers have chemistry that is promoting life. Growth hormone. That's why people, when they fall in love, they glow. They're healthy. I go, why? Because their chemistry, the culture medium, has growth hormone, which encourages growth. And I say, but if that person has a picture of fear, then all of a sudden I say, that love chemistry, that the brain doesn't release love chemistry, and fear releases stress hormones. I go, so what's that? I say, right. Oh, stress hormone chemistry in your blood doesn't promote growth. In fact, it shuts down growth, because protection is to wall yourself off and to conserve energy to run away from the fear. And I say, so when I put stress hormones in, my cells genetically have a different behavior than if I put love hormones in. So as I change my thoughts, I change the chemistry of the blood, but the chemistry of the blood is the epigenetic control of my genes.
Amazing.
So all of a sudden it says, what's your picture? What are you thinking about?
Yeah. Right. So that's what I'm thinking is well, then the goal is to never be in fear. The goal is, if you want to be healthy, is to stay in love. There you go. That's the nature of the game. Because when you're in love, guess what? You enhance your immune system. When you're in fear, you shut off your immune system right away. That's 100% difference in outcome. Right.
And so
the environment you're putting yourself in is going to control your thoughts. And if your thoughts are now
No.
Okay.
I want to fix that for a second, Mindy. Let's fix it. Okay. It goes this way. The cells in a petri dish are directly contacting the environment, culture medium. Okay. So cells adjust to the environment. I go, well, inside my body, my cells don't know what the hell the environment is, but they have to adjust themselves. If it's wintertime, I'm going to increase my metabolism, stay warmer. In the summertime, I'm going to decrease my metabolism and sweat and cool off. I'm being adjusting to this environment. Okay. So I go, so what's the relevance of all of this? And the answer is, the cells in my body do not see the real environment. They see my interpretation of the environment. I go, where'd you get that? I said, well, when you grew up, like kids that are, programmed to be bigots, before they even know who they're bigot against. Oh, well, we don't like those people. The kid's 4 years old, never even met one of these people. And the parents are all talking about how these people are the bad people. And now the kid is 10 years old and meets one of these people. And guess what? He's got a filter. He knows, oh, you're one of those people. Oh, those are the bad people. Okay. But the one that I give that actually I put into an article, I really like it because it's like two kids are neighbors to each other. And there's a yard with a fence. And in yard one, a garden snake comes out of the grass and wiggles across, and the mother and the baby are there. And the mother is a biologist. And she goes, oh, look at this this is a snake. And and she picks it up and everything. And the kid is, oh, this is a snake. I like that, And I say, then the snake travels under the fence and goes in the next yard. And there's a baby there, but a mother who freaks out. And she sees the snake and goes, like the end of the world. It grabs the kid, runs away. Now it's 30 years later. The two babies are grown up, two guys, 30 years old, walking down the sidewalk. And a snake slithers out of the grass and crosses the sidewalk. One of the two is going to go, oh, look at that snake. That's a nice snake. The other one is screaming bloody murder, like, ah. And I go, so what was the point? And this is critical. They both are in the same environment, but they have completely different responses to the same signals. I go, where do the responses come from? The first 7 years of programming sets up our filters. What's important, what's not important, how is this? And therefore, after that, this subconscious is where those filters are running the show. So if that snake shows up and the mother of that one was the biologist and he looks at the snake, it's like, what's a snake? But if the snake shows up and the other one whose mother freaked out sees the snake, he's got a filter that says, oh, that's a scary damn thing. And he's going to freak out. Then all of a sudden I said, well, then how do you respond to the world?
Right.
Go, how were you programmed? Because the first 7 years of life is where we get programs of how to respond. I go, how do you get those? And here's the cool part. For the first 7 years of a child's life, when you put wires on a person's head, you record brain activity, electroencephalograph, EEG.
Right.
The vibration of a child under 7 is not maintaining a level of consciousness. It's below consciousness. It's at a vibration called theta. Alpha is a consciousness. That's a higher vibe. Theta is below consciousness. I say, a child up to 7 is predominantly in theta. I go, what's theta? I say, well, characterize imagination. And I go, that's how a child, we have a tea party under 7. We pour the nothing into the cup. We drink the nothing. And we talk about how wonderful the tea was. That's a tea party. Okay. I go, why was it relevant? And the answer comes down to this, is that imagination is that character. And I go, yeah, but here's the killer. Theta is also hypnosis. If you want to hypnotize somebody and download a program into their subconscious, you put hypnosis. And I go, yeah, but a child's in hypnosis for 7 years. I said, why? Answer is intelligence of the system. And that is what? If I say, Mindy, show me a book with all the rules that you have to be a member of a family and all the rules to be a functional member of a community. How big is that book? All the rules. All of a sudden you say, oh my God, that's got thousands and thousands of rules to be a functional member. I go, but an infant can't read. And an infant has to become a member of a family and it has to become a member of a community. So I said, well, how do they get that knowledge? And the answer is first 7 years, hypnosis. Watch the mother, the father, and the community and download what you see, just like a video camera. And by age 7, you've observed how your parents respond to all these different things. How your mother responds is different. How your father responds is different. How the neighbor responds. But you're getting the download picture. So a child by the age of 7 has experienced all the different behaviors to become part of that community. And it does so by nothing more than watching, observing. And then it turns out 90, but the last fact, Mindy, I keep shutting up, but I got to give you this one because then
I have so many thoughts on this.
Here's full circle. The conscious mind is the creative one connected to your wishes and desires, your spirituality. The subconscious mind only has the programs in it. And I say, when we're operating from the conscious mind, we're creating from our wishes and desires. But when we're operating from the subconscious mind, that's just push the button, play the program, push the button, play the program. It's habit. Okay. And then I say, well, how much of my life am I using my creative conscious mind to manifesting my life? And I go, 5%. I go, what do you mean? 95%, the conscious mind is not looking out the window. It's looking inside because that's where thinking occurs. So I say, hey, Mindy, tell me what you're doing on Thursday at 2:00. And right at this moment, it's not in front of you, but if I give you a moment, you're going to go, on Thursday, I'm doing this. And I go, where do you get this from? I said, well, this is the programming. Okay. It's built in. But I also say, but where did you get that program? I stopped looking out the window and I went inside my head and said, Thursday, what am I doing on Thursday? I'm not looking. I'm inside. So I say, so the conclusion, when we are thinking, the conscious mind is not looking out the window. It's inside. So that means it's not controlling the behavior. I say, yeah, but if I'm driving a car and I'm thinking, does that mean the car's out of control? I go, no. Subconscious is autopilot. Moment I am thinking, subconscious grabs the wheel. It will drive that vehicle just the way I was programmed to drive the vehicle. Why? It's a habit. Okay? I don't have to think about driving after I learned and made it a habit. You could put the key in the ignition and not once think about all the things that you had to do the first day you got in the car. Mirrors, gauges, listen to the engine, look out the window. And now you can drive without thinking about it. I go, yeah, but 95, this is then conclusion after, I'm sorry, so many words, but.
No, it's awesome.
Conclusion is 95% of your life is not coming from your creative wishes and desires conscious mind. 95% is coming from the programs that you have because you're spending time thinking with the conscious mind. So 95% of your life is not coming from your creative wishes and desires. It's just playing the program. And I say, most of those programs are self-sabotaging, limiting, and disempowering beliefs. And I say, you play those 95% of the day.
And they're not yours.
No, they're not yours. You got them from where? Download. That's not what you wanted. That was just the program you got. Okay. So what's the relevance about this? Well, where's conscious mind when you're playing this program? It's not watching. Conscious mind's inside. I go, so why? Well, when you're playing the program, did you notice anything about that program? Was it a good program or a bad program? I said, how the hell do you know? You were not paying attention. You were inside. And all of a sudden I go, so finally, I will come to a closure to let you ask a question. Finally. But first, my last final, I always say that, then there's always another slide. But
yeah, I get
my
it.
last one right here is same story, 30 years, because it's like the most valid, boom, hit you in the head. And it's like this. You have a friend, you know your friend's behavior very well. You know your friend's parent. One day you see your friend has the same behavior as their parent. So you got to tell your friend, you go, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. And then I say, back away from Bill. Because the first thing Bill's going to say is, how can you compare me to my dad? I'm nothing like my dad. And everyone in the audience starts to snicker and laugh because they're familiar with it. And I go, closing story and why it is the most profound one. Everyone else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. Bill's the only one that doesn't see it. I go, why not? Well, why is he playing it? Oh, his conscious mind is thinking. So he's playing the program he downloaded from his dad in that first 7 years. And then what? Well, he doesn't see it because he's playing it only because he's not thinking. He's thinking, he's not paying attention.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I go, and now the conclusion of that story is very interesting. Everyone else can see that Bill's behavior is like his dad. It's only Bill who can't see it. And then my favorite punchline. We are all Bill. Every one of us is doing what Bill does every day. And you don't see. It's the behavior that you're playing when you're not paying attention, behavior that supports you, or is it behavior that compromises you? How do you know? You didn't see it. And so how would I know? And the answer is this. 95% of your life is coming from the program. So I said, conclusion, your life is a printout of your program. Are you a happy?
And your program.
What's that? You are the program.
And your program was your parents or your community from 0 to 7.
Absolutely. The Jesuits, they always had a saying for 400 years. They told people this and nobody understood. And the Jesuits would say, give me a child for the first 7 years and I will show you the man. That's a famous saying.
Wow.
I said, what were they saying? I said, just exactly what I just said. First 7 years, they even got that right, is the program period. And then 95% of the rest of your life is coming from the program. So if I get the child for the first 7 years, I essentially have control the rest of the life of that program. And I say, and who are the programmed people? I said, we are. We've all been here. There's nobody that got to this point without having programs because you can't use your nervous system without a program.
And so the $1 million question has to be, how do you change your program if the first 7 years was rough and you don't want to repeat the patterns perhaps of the adults that programmed you, how do you change that?
I never heard that question before. No, I'm lying. I'm lying like crazy. Ever since day one, when I tried to tell people how the mechanism works, the first question is always, well, how do I change that? And I go, well, that wasn't my job. My job was to show you how it works.
There you go.
But I do have answers after all these years.
I hope
years,
so.
Okay? The idea is this. The programs are in the subconscious mind. And by the fact that it's called a program, it's also a habit. I say, as a habit, you don't want to change that. If I think there are habits that are good and there are habits that are bad, I say, when did you learn how to walk? Oh, before 2, you learned that program. Why? You practiced, you stood up, you fell over, you practiced, you got the system to learn to control, and you taught walking. Okay? I go, you know what's great? That same program will run till you're 150 years old. You know, it doesn't change. And thank God it doesn't, because I don't want to have to relearn how to walk. So I go, well, what's cool about a habit? Habits resist change, because if they change, then they're not habits anymore. Okay? So I say the subconscious mind's a habit mind. I go, oh, geez, now I got programs in there I want to change. I say, resist change. And I go, yeah, but guess what? I can learn new habits, right? Pick up an instrument. I don't know how to play it, but if I practice, make habit, I can put in a new program. I can learn that. Okay? So I said, here's the problem. We have confused the conscious and subconscious as one, the mind. I go, no. 2 different minds make the mind. These 2 minds have different functions, and they learn in different ways. And that's where the problem comes from.
What's the different ways?
Well, the creative mind, by definition, is creative. I can learn it anyway. Look, just listening to this conversation, I can learn something and walk away with it, right? I could just go, aha, I have an idea. I just put a new vision in my conscious mind. And I say, does that translate to the subconscious mind? I go, no, subconscious mind doesn't learn that way. I go, so why is it relevant? I say, well, I read all the self-help books. Man, give me a test. I can give you 100 on how to live this most wonderful life. And I said, are you living that wonderful life? You can get 100. No. And I go, that was the problem. You could read the self-help books, educate the conscious mind, but that's not translated in the subconscious program. And so going to the lecture and reading the book and watching the video, I can educate conscious mind, but it does not change the program. Then I say, oh, the subconscious mind learns in a different way. I go, yeah. First 7 years, how to learn. Theta, the low vibration, below awake consciousness, that it was recording. Okay, so I say, oh, every night when you go to bed, if you put wires on a head, when you're at work, it's a higher vibration called beta, and then when you come home, vibrations slow down to a calmer consciousness called alpha. And just at the moment your eyes close and you disconnect consciousness, the vibration has just now dropped into theta. So your conscious mind's not aware, but your subconscious mind is open. So if you put earphones on at night to play behaviors that you want, programs that you want, the beautiful part about it is you might hear some of the program while you're still alert, but the moment alpha shuts off, guess what? The speaker is sending words and your conscious mind doesn't even hear it, but your subconscious mind is still working. So you can make new habits. It's called self-hypnosis. Okay. Number 2, that only self-hypnosis or theta worked until age 7, but you learn things after age 7 to drive the car, play the instrument, do the job, whatever. I say, how'd you do that? I say, repetition. You want something to be real? It's called practice, habituation. You actually have to live it. Right. And I go, the new age phraseology always makes me laugh about it. It's called fake it till you make it. Meaning, I'm not a happy person. I go, hey, you want to be a happy person? I say, yeah. Then I say, all day long, every time you could think about it, you say, I am happy. I am happy. In the middle of, keep saying, I am happy. Repetition will ultimately cause habit. Habit is one day you wake up and guess what? You're happy. You didn't even say it. Why? That's the program. I downloaded it.
Wow.
Okay. So after age 7, you can put new programs in, but you actually have to do an exercise, a habituation, a practice to put it in. I like to offer this as a sticky note on the mirror. A lot of people think, oh, that's it. I go, it's a suggestion. It's not a habit. It does. Oh, yeah. Don't eat the donut. Yeah, I got it. Okay. That's not a habit. That's a suggestion. I'll end up eating the donut. Why? Because I didn't change anything. I got the original subconscious donut loving program. If I want to change it, I have to change my vision of donut.
Right.
And so repetition. Okay. So that's number 2. Both 1 and 2, self-hypnosis, repetition, is a time-consuming exercise. Okay. However, necessity being the mother of invention, we are going extinct because of our behavior, and we have to change our behavior. We don't have a lot of time. So nature came up with, hey, you can change behavior using something called energy psychology. And there's about, on my website, this moment, brucelipton.com. I have listed on that website about 20 to 30 different energy psychology modalities. They all essentially get to the same conclusion, but through, different pathway to get in. And I go, so what's most relevant? I go, these changes in programs can occur in minutes once you know what you want to change and what what is it. The harder part is, what's the program I want?
Yeah.
Once you figure that out, that may take longer than let's put the program in, because you can do it in certain cases in minutes and walk away minutes later with a different life. You just walked out the door, different life. These are the 3 fundamental ways. And I say, and then before you use these 3 fundamental ways to change the program, of course, the first question is, what's the program that I have?
I was just going to say, how do you know what the program is if you're too close to it?
No, and guess what? When did the program go in? Well, actually, they started programming before you were born, last trimester of pregnancy. So let's say a mother plays music by her abdomen, and the fetus is growing, and the fetus hears that music. When the baby is born, you play that music, the baby will instantly recognize that music. It learned already. Okay. So it starts in the last trimester of pregnancy, and it goes through age 7. So now I say, oh, wow, you got programmed. Okay, what program did you get in utero? What was your mother experiencing in her life? Because her blood, with her chemistry, whether it was love or fear, based on what she was the blood that was programming your cells as a fetus. So she was genetically expressing things in your body through her blood. Okay, just like my own blood is controlling me here, but as a fetus, I'm living off my mother's blood, which has information in it. Okay, so I say, well, why is it important? I say, well, can you remember the program when you were in utero? No. Oh, well, you had a whole year from 0 to 1. Can you remember any of the programs? No. Okay, from 1 to 2, a whole year, you got programmed. Do you have a full memory of what programs happened? No. By the time you get to 3, you might say, yeah, I remember some things. Okay. But here's the point. How do I know what the damn programs are? They were programmed before I was conscious. Thank you, Mindy, for letting me come to this most important.
Yes, tell us.
Yes. Your life, 95% is coming from the program, the subconscious. I go, why is it relevant? I say, your life is a printout of your program. I go, look at your life. I go, why? The things that you like that actually come into your life, they come in because you have a program to, bring them in. But the things that you wish for and desire, and you have to work hard and sweat over and put a lot of effort in. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen. I said, why are you working so hard? And the answer is, whatever that destination is, your subconscious program doesn't support that. And you're trying to override it. I will override it. I will lose weight. I go, that's a conscious decision. I said, did you tell the subconscious about it? I said, why? Because weight is a setting in the subconscious. It's not a setting in the conscious mind. Conscious mind says, I don't want to weight. And subconscious is like, that's the program. And I say, so what are you going to do about it? I say, well, you have to change the program. And I go, why is that relevant? Well, I could diet. That's me overriding this thing. I said, well, I work really hard. I hate it. I hate this stupid diet. I'm eating cardboard every night, but I'm going to lose weight. And I get down to this weight and I go, great. I let go. Program comes right back up. Weight right back where it was before. Okay. So I go, so why is all this relevant? And the relevance is this. It's not easy to take the conscious mind, which works 5% of the time, to override the subconscious program running 95% of the time. So the idea, that's where the problem comes from. So now we're left at the conclusion. What do you want to change in your life? I say the things I'm struggling with: relationship, money, health, whatever. If you have a struggle, it's a reflection of a program. So now you know what you want to change. And then you have to, and the harder part, as I said, is you're going to write a program and stick it in. So you have to be very careful in the writing of that program. It can go in faster than it takes the time to write it. And it's really important. I'll just give you an example. Well, let's say I have a disease. What's my wish? I want to be healthy. Oh, let me put that into the program. I want to be healthy. So let's record that today, Mindy and Bruce, today recording what? I want to be healthy. I put it into my subconscious mind. And we come back next year, same time next year. And I say, hey, how's that working for you? And the answer is, nothing changed, through all of that. And I go, what? You haven't changed the program using a technique to change that program. So, and now here comes the conclusion. What did I just program? I want to be healthy. Guess what? Next year, same time, I want to be healthy. I say, you can't get to be healthy. Why? You put the word want. Want is a desire. You'll always be in desire. I want to be healthy. It's like, what's the program? I am healthy. I say, you're sitting there with terminal cancer. And I say, and what are you telling yourself? I am healthy. That sounds so absurd. I go, no, because it's a program that goes into the subconscious. And the function of the mind is to make that program real. That's what it does right now. It takes your subconscious programs and makes them real. Why? Because then your life is just as you expected it. God, I didn't think I was going to get that raise, and I didn't get it. And I go, wow, what do you know? Your created reality was, I didn't think I was going to get it, and you didn't. Okay? So basically, it says, if your life isn't working right, then this is really, you have to look at it and say, what is the destination that I can't get to? And then start to recognize, if I want to get there, then I have to write a statement as if I'm already there, because my mind, if I say I want, my mind will say, okay, you can want this for 100 years. You can still want it. You could have it 500 years. You could still want it. But if I am it, then the function of the mind is to make it. I am healthy. Then the mind goes, looks at the body, goes, holy crap, you got terminal cancer. You got, program healthy? Okay. Changes the chemistry, adjusts the genetics, and will turn you back into healthy again.
Amazing. And so affirmations work
repetitively. It's a habituation. You have to repeat it religiously. It's not like, today I was thinking some very positive thoughts. I go, that's nice.
Right.
5% of your day. Who cares? It doesn't make any difference to the 50 trillion cells that are operating from the other program. And so all of a sudden I said, those cells have to be habituated. This is the program.
So you can't complain you can't complain your way to a different life.
Oh, no, that makes it worse. I'll tell you why. Cells are the subconscious mind is like a 5-year-old child. I go, why is it relevant? I say, if you want a 5-year-old child to actually do something, then you be nice to that 5-year-old child. But if that 5-year-old child, you yell at it, you stupid, ignorant, blah, blah, blah. I go, that 5-year-old child is not going to really support you anymore. It's going to go, I hate you. I go, well, what's the problem? I say, well, you were yelling at it to fix something. It doesn't like you because that's the way you treated it. Then it's not necessarily going to support you. It doesn't care.
Change, yeah.
So it's really, cells have a consciousness to them. So if I injure myself, truly, I touch wherever I'm injured. If I cut myself, I touch it and I see it and I say, this is healing. We're going to heal this right here. You go, what's that all about? And I go, why in a normal presidency, if there's a disaster in the States, does the president go to the disaster site? It takes the attention of 300 million people focusing on what? The disaster. And the energy of that 300 million people is infusing that population with health. And, that's what the collective energy is about. So I say you got 50 trillion cellular citizens. Something goes wrong with the cells. Take the government, the mind, and say, you see these cells? Yeah. Hey, folks, this is going to get healed right here. I'm touching it. Why? That's the president landing where the problem is. And that brings the attention of 50 trillion cells to here, and that facilitates the healing.
Amazing.
But if you yell at yourself and complain like crazy, I go, who listens to that? Not the cells.
Yeah. So could we do something as a collective consciousness right now in this moment? Could we all put our attention on what life will be like when this situation is over? And would that have accelerate the movement in a more positive direction?
100%. You can't have a war unless you get enough people to believe in a war. I can't go out in the street and say, let's have a war today. And everybody looks at me like, what are you, crazy? So there's no war happening. But if I get out in the street, get 500,000 people to say, yeah, we're right for that war. Prepare, because that war is going to happen. Okay. And I say, so why is it? We are cells in a evolving body called humanity. 50 trillion cells inside your body. We have how many? Near 8 billion cells comprising something bigger. And when we understand that's the destination, all of a sudden you realize, do you like it when your cells attack each other? That's called autoimmune disease, self-destruction. The answer is absolutely not. What is healthy? Harmony and 50 trillion cells. I go, yeah, but they're all different kinds of cells. They're all different colors. Brain is white, liver is red, all these different green in the bile. I go, they're all different. I said, yeah, but they work together to create a human. And I say 7 to 8 billion human cells coming together create a higher level called humanity.
Amazing.
And this is where we need to go. We need to go out of, I'm separate from you and you're a different color than me and you have a different religion than me. And I go, well, that's separation as anything could ever be. And evolution is not separation. Evolution is the opposite of Darwinian theory. Darwinian theory is competition and survival of the fittest. And it turns out that is completely wrong. That is not evolution. A garden is not a battleground. A garden is the height of cooperation among all the organisms that comprise that garden. And I go, so why is it relevant? We came from a garden and our lack of cooperation with that garden is destroying the web of life, garden. And we're facing our own extinction because our behavior is not in harmony with the world.
Wow.
And this is the wake-up call. It says, you better learn to live in harmony with nature. You are not outside of nature. You are nature.
Right.
We didn't come here like God created everything and then said, let's add some humans. I go, no, humans came from the garden inward. And I go, so why is it relevant? If we came from the garden to destroy the garden, then by definition, you just destroyed yourself. Wow. And this is where we are in this mass extinction.
Amazing. If you were the Surgeon General of America right now, what would you do?
Well, the first thing is, first take care of yourself to be a functional element in this community. Because if you're not a functional element, then you're actually weakening the community because somebody's going to have to take care of you and take care of the problems you didn't deal with. So the first thing is personal health. We are responsible. Epigenetics is the science that says, yes, your environment and your perception are controlling your genes. If you're not healthy, it's because you're not in harmony with your environment or with your perceptions. That's the problem. So everybody should really start to recognize, look, we make culture medium. Remember, the chemistry of the culture medium controls the cells. I go, what kind of food are you eating? Industrial farm crap with poisons and toxins, or are you eating organic, natural, healthy food? Now, that makes a difference on making culture medium blood. That's why you eat the food in the first place. Okay. So we have to start recognizing we need to really eat better to live in harmony with ourselves and ourselves with us. Secondly, most of our food is so short of some very important vitamin supplements.
Yes.
And for health, to endorse and support the immune system, the most important recommendation is large quantities of vitamin C. I take 2,000 milligrams, actually called 2 grams of that every day, vitamin C, because it enforces and supports the immune system in this time. So does vitamin D, another one that most people are weakest in. And that also enhances and supports the immune system. Magnesium, zinc as supplemental elements. I want to make culture medium. In the lab, I don't go get my ingredients at Kmart when I make culture medium. I buy the most pristine, best ingredients in the world, because if I compromise on the ingredients and put those medium into the culture dish, you can watch the cells get sick right away.
Yes.
It's either the culture medium has to be fully supportive. So eating an organic natural, taking vitamins and supplements, especially vitamin C and D at this time. Okay.
Yes.
Exercise. Why? The blood is cleaning and taking care of the body, but the blood needs to have this circulation system to push it so it goes through all the filters and does all this stuff. And if you're sedentary, you're not supporting the cleansing and cleaning up and maintenance of your body. So exercise, something from just walking, just get the hell out of that house and start walking.
Yes.
It's great exercise, okay? So now we have 3 things? We have diet, supplements, exercise, and number 4, this is the one we were talking about for the last hour. And I say, what are your thoughts? Because your mind is going to manifest them. If they're negative thoughts, then get ready, it's coming. If it's positive thoughts, then congratulations, because you're going to improve your vitality, your health, and your enjoyment of living in this beautiful garden that we have. And so I say, yeah, if I was in that position, I say, first take care of yourself. There's an old hippie thing from a million years ago. It says, before you go out and save the world, take care of your own backyard.
Yes. Or Gandhi.
Was that Gandhi?
I don't know if it was Gandhi, but he was be the change you want to see.
Well, that's it. So we have to take care of ourselves first and then participate in a community of others taking care of themselves and the environment. Taking care of yourself is all, since you are the environment. If you're going to take care of yourself, you better damn well take care of that environment, because you're a reflection of that. So all of a sudden you see we can come out of this self-destructive belief system that we've been programmed that life is competition, people are threatening, they want to take away yours and you're going to protect it. I go, that's not real. That was a belief system that has programmed us.
Amazing.
And so Amazing. The idea is this: you first have to take care of yourself. And you can look and here's, if I have to say, the most important aspect of getting there is to look in the mirror and say, I love that person. I say, why? Is that relevant? I go, because when we do belief changes, like those energy psychology things, and we test for beliefs, listen to this number. Between 80 and 90% of all participants, they will not test positive for I love myself. And I go, that's 8 to 9 out of 10 people. I go, why is that? Because when we were young, parents used to think if they criticize us, we'll make a better effort. I go, but if a child's under 7, they're not thinking, they're just recording. So when the kid cries because he wants a toy and the parent says, you don't deserve that. The child doesn't understand really the meaning behind that, but the child did record it. I do not deserve. I go, for the rest of the child's life, that's a program. I say, why is it relevant? Well, then 95% of the day, if the mind is going to make that program real, it's going to compromise that person. So at the end of the day, the person goes, yeah, I didn't get it again. I guess I don't deserve it. I go, that was a program. Okay. So
fascinating.
You need to do this. And it comes because love is glue that holds it all together. And if you don't love yourself, no one else can love you by legitimacy. Meaning, if I don't love myself and someone comes up and says, Bruce, I love you. And I go, well, you have no quality control because I know I'm not lovable. And then I will push that person away. And at the end of the day, then I'll come home and go, I know I'm not lovable. Nobody's here. You've been pushing them away all day. What the hell you want?
Fascinating. Oh my God. I could talk to you forever, and I want to respect your time. I do have a couple of questions for you. You've already, like, my brain is just going now, and I can't wait to go to bed tonight and see what I can program in there on the way into the sleep. If there was one person on the planet right now that you could sit down and have a great conversation with and learn something from, who would that be? Everybody, huh? Yeah.
Everybody can show me something that I don't know, because obviously I don't know everything.
Yes.
And everybody has something.
Yes.
And therefore, to say that all the answers come from this one voice, that unfortunately redirects people. They buy that one voice, but if that one voice has any flaw in it, then everybody else just bought all the flaw too. So the idea is be open and listen and observe and find things that feel good. Because when you feel good, that means the chemistry that's going from your mind is making harmony. That's why feeling good is a reflection. Yeah, 50 trillion cells are happy. Why? I feel great.
I love it. I love it. Is there a book that changed your life that you would say everybody needs to read outside of The Biology of Belief? Definitely everybody needs to read that book. But is there a book?
It was a long time ago book, and there are much better versions of it. But I read a book by an author, Heinz Pagels, a physicist, and it was all about quantum physics. And I go, not quantum physics with equations and mathematics, which is like, I don't get that, but quantum physics and meaning, and principles. And when you understand it, it's like, oh my God, the fundamental principle of quantum physics, and let me emphasize this, of all the sciences on planet Earth, quantum physics is the most valid, the most, tested, affirmed to be true. There is no science with more truth than quantum physics. And I said, so why is quantum physics so important? You ready? Principle number one, consciousness is creating our life experience. Beautiful. And all of a sudden it says, my God, that's not a new age suggestion. That is the most valid science on the planet. Amazing. Change your consciousness and you will change your existence on this planet.
Amazing.
That's physics.
Amazing. Okay. Well, you're incredible. Let me leave you with, I know people say this, but let me leave you with this question. If you had, and you probably already answered it, but if you had one message for the world that you could get into their subconscious programming and really help them live a happier life, what would that be?
That's something that I learned that I never had in my life until I got it. And then my life profoundly changed. And that is simply this. As a scientist, I did not believe in spirituality. I believed, here I am, animal, live, die, amino acids, back to the soil again. But through the understanding of physics, and then supported by epigenetics, consciousness is creating the situation we're in. And if the world you're in doesn't look right, is because the consciousness you are using is supporting that world. Mm-hmm. And that it's time for us to recognize we're spiritual entities, that we're here visiting this planet using a virtual reality suit called the body. And the day that I'll close with this because we got to shorten it, but the day that I was recognizing that, and that was my science of epigenetics, which was the environment controlling the genes. I also recognized no two people are the same. Biologically, we knew that because I can't transfer my organs into you. Your immune system will say not self. You put your cells in somebody else's body, their immune system says not self. The point is very clear. Obviously, there's a self because the cells are not interchangeable. They have a serial number on them. And the serial number in this particular case is a set of self receptors. And when I started to put together, I said, oh my God, we are downloading an environmental signal through these receptors that makes us different. And my cells respond to a certain vibrational frequency because those are the protein antennas of self. On my cell, you have a completely different set of protein antennas. You're getting a whole different broadcast. And the moment I realized, I said, wait, I am a broadcast playing through this body. And so my closing sentence is I can't die. Why? This is like a television set. And my source is the broadcast. And I go, you're watching a TV breaks. You say it's dead. And I go, yep, it's not working anymore. But is the broadcast still there? And the answer is, of course it is. That doesn't change. And if a new TV set, a new body shows up with the same antennas that you have, you're back. Different body. It could be male, it could be female, it could be white, brown, black, yellow, red. That's the TV set, okay? I started to recognize this and I said, oh my God, I'm immortal. I can't. And then the last thing that I was going to say, got to it now, is as a scientist, when I first recognized, oh my God, there's a spiritual part and a physical part. And I asked myself a question, science, why have both? Why not just be the spirit? And this is when I remark the joy of my 50 trillion cells turned out to be like Jewish comedians. And I go, what do you mean? I said, I asked the question, why have a body and a spirit? Why not just be a spirit? They welled up and the answer came from inside and hit me right in the head. And the answer was a question. I asked a question, they answered with a question. I said, why have both? And the cells said, Bruce, if you're just a spirit, what does chocolate taste like? That is so profound if you get into it.
Because surely you're going to answer that.
A virtual reality suit. The cells make vision. The cells convert sound into vibration. Smell is vibration. Okay? Touch, love, emotions, vibrations that the body creates that sends back to the broadcast. And so then why are we here? To create and to experience. And if they're great experiences, continue doing that. And if they're sucky experiences, well, then don't do that anymore. Simple as that.
Simple. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So change your vibration, change your life.
Exactly. Recognize you are the vibration.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Well, you're incredible. And how do people find you? Your website's amazing, by the way.
Oh, we got a new one. It's beautiful. BruceLipton.com. And it's got a community page, which is the best thing because so many people started to connect with each other over the same, oh, I had this problem. How did you deal with it? Or this person had this disease. What did they? Now there's a dialogue. And that was the intention of part of the editing of this new website was to provide a place for people to carry on the dialogue. And then give each other ideas and information how to make a better world.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this was the highlight of my week, even though it's Monday. I'm just going to say that you elevated my thoughts today. So I just want to say thank you for all your work and your consistent work. I mean, you've been saying this message for decades now, and
it's still right. You. It's still right. I love that.
What? We need you more than ever now. The world needs you. So thank you for keeping up the pace that you're at.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank our audience because those are the other cells that when they get this and we come together in a new body, a new form of humanity, the future is as bright as anything you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.